We are joined now by MLB Network's Adnan Virk. Adnan, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. How you doing? Nice to chat again.
Yes. Well, we're doing great, man. The Mariners look like they are a good ball club, man. Got some comeback wins against the A's this past series, and that makes 9 series wins in a row. Just what's your overview of this thing? Your 30,000-foot overview. What are you seeing?
Well, it's an incredible story, Michael. There's no question about it, particularly the offense. You know, everyone thought that we just had to accept the fact that Seattle was never going to be a team that was going to be able to score runs. It was just going to be, hey, it's too tough to hit in that ballpark, the climate, et cetera. They're going to have great pitching for years, at least the controllable young starting pitching, but it's a long time away since Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez and Jay Buhner did it back at the Kingdom. But lo and behold, look what's happened. When you make a coaching change and you make different moves in terms of philosophy, things really can work out. And that's what I think is the lesson here is that it isn't necessarily the roster, it's about the approach that they've been given. And since the Mariners replaced Scott Service with Dan Wilson, brought in Edgar Martinez, and this year's hitting coach, Kevin Seitzer, Seattle's offense has been completely revitalized, Michael. Dating back to August 23rd of last season, that's the first under Wilson. Seattle's now 5th in the majors in OPS at 759 and runs per game at 5.1. Their 10.9% walk rate is best in Major League Baseball over that stretch. So clearly they realized be much more patient. Don't just be a free swinger. Don't just try to hit home runs. Make the ballpark work for you. You know, you can't hit home runs there. I get it. So look for singles and doubles and triples and use your speed. And really they bought into the philosophy. They've been a great story and a big reason why they're first place in the West.
I like that quote. You said it's not the roster. It's the approach they've been given. That's something we've been trying to figure out, right? We're like, man, is Edgar and Seitzer just the hitter whisperers, and is Dan Wilson's vibe just different? Have you seen a situation similar to this? And you're just covering baseball that, you know, the roster isn't great, but just the vibe and the message seems to work with the talent that they have.
Yeah, sometimes it happens. I mean, you definitely see the bump initially in a team, but to sustain it is that what I think is more impressive, meaning if last August the team started hitting, okay, that happens. But to actually see them this year doing it as well, to me, that's a really positive sign. And I think that, you know, look at the Rangers are trying to do the same thing. They fired their hitting coach, brought in Brett Boone, brother of my good buddy Aaron Boone, the Yankees manager. And the first game with Brett Boone, who went from having a podcast and now being the hitting coach of the Texas Rangers, and his old buddies, and played for Bruce Bochy years ago, 2000, back in San Diego. They had 16 hits. So there's always that bump. You and I know that happens in sports, especially when a coach gets fired, new coach comes in. That happens. But it's been pretty impressive how Seattle's been able to keep this going.
When do you kind of decide, okay, this is for real? Do you wait until Memorial Day? Do you go a little further? Is there a certain stat that you look for with consistency where you start to go, okay, I think this team has taken a step forward?
Yeah, Stacey, I always try to look at it in terms of thirds. Like Memorial Day definitely is a benchmark. I say to myself, okay, a team that is successful right now is in decent shape. I think it's something like 2/3 of teams who are in playoff position by Memorial Day end up making the playoffs, so I feel pretty good. And I definitely look at it more from a negative perspective. If my team is struggling at Memorial Day, for example, the Orioles are almost 10 games under 500. They've been one of the bigger stories in the sport, just how bad they've been. So to me, if I'm the Orioles Memorial Day, I'm still not good. Then I start saying, okay, we've got to make some massive changes here, make some trades, and accept our fate. But for Seattle specifically, when would I start sort of, quote-unquote, buying the Kool-Aid and feeling pretty good? I'd wait until the All-Star break. I mean, Memorial Day's almost here, a few more weeks. If they're still hitting, okay, great. But if I can sustain that and I'm going into July and the All-Star break and my team is still a top 5, top 10 offense, I feel pretty good about it.
We're hoping that comes true. And what we've seen out of this team, at least one guy specifically, is Cal Raleigh. You know, when we start the season, everyone's looking at Julio to be the guy and take the charge, and he's been getting better over the past couple of series, but Cal has just been so consistent. And, he plays a position, as you know, is just so hard on the body, and for him to perform the way he has, it's been fun to watch, man. What do you think makes Cal so special behind the plate and in the batter's box?
Well, he's a great guy. There's no question about it. Start with that. He's got a great nickname in the Big Dumper. We all know that. And, in terms of fastest catchers to get to 100 home runs, he's on a very short list of guys who are able to do so. And, I think it's come a long way. In the years past, a catcher was just expected to call a good game and be good defensively. If you could hit, it's a bonus. But then you had catchers like Gary Carter and Mike Piazza and guys that could do both. And, I think Raleigh's an example of a guy. Again, I wish the batting average was a little bit higher. He does strike out too much, but he's got more of that classic approach, which is boom or bust. He's going to go for the fences, and if not, he'll go down swinging. And the good news is the 12 home runs have been huge. clearly when you're, calling a pitching staff like that, I think some credit has to go to the catcher. You can't just say all these great young arms they can throw to anybody. Raleigh has to know each of these guys' psyche, whether it's Miller or Wu or Castillo or Gilbert. I know Kirby's been out, which to me, again, George Kirby's one of my favorite pitchers. The fact he hasn't even pitched yet, wait till he gets back in that rotation. But I think whenever a battery is really good, whenever a pitching staff is good, I give credit to the catcher as well. So I think we focus on Cal Raleigh and the home runs for good reason. But he calls a good game and clearly one of the more likable guys in the game as well.
Hey, speaking of those home runs, we've been having local debates about whether or not the Mariners are playing small ball or whether or not they're just getting on base more. Because they're knocking in a ton of home runs, right? As you know, they're like second behind, I think, only the Yankees. And I think because locally we've had people go, oh, small ball, Dan Wilson, old school, 1995, here it is again. I think people maybe are mislabeling this style of baseball. But what do I know? I mean, Jay Buhner called it small ball on with our morning show the other day. So how do you see like this genre of baseball, what the Mariners are doing? And then kind of a secondary question, is anyone actually playing small ball anywhere?
No, it's a great point, Stacey. I'll go to the second one first. The only teams that have to play small ball are the ones who can't afford to have power. The power is one of the more greater luxuries in the game. Teams will overpay and pay a ton of money for a guy who's a power hitter. The Blue Jays, Anthony Santander, 44 home runs last year. They gave him $92.5 million, even though he doesn't do much else besides have that power. And Santander off to a very slow start with the Blue Jays, ironically. But a team like the Brewers, right, they don't have a big payroll. Guess what? They play small ball because they can't afford 40 home run hitters. So they have guys like Bryce Terang, who are pesky hitters with great speed. They hit and run. Pat Murphy tries different ways to manufacture runs with Christian Yelich and others. So I think for the Mariners specifically, no, I don't think it's small ball. I think they become more patient. I think that again, the walk rate to me is huge. They're number one in walk rate since that stat I gave. So it's one thing to say, like small ball implies you're just looking to slap the ball and get a base hit. No, they're still trying to get the home run, but their plate discipline is so much better. Their plate coverage is better. So I still think they're going for home runs, but they're just being a lot smarter in terms of their pitch selection.
I have kids, right? I have 11, 13, and 15, and there's a whole bunch of trends and fads that happen every 6 months, and they try to keep me young, but I feel old as heck. But to start this season, the fad was a torpedo bat, and Yankees are hot, and now Cal's using their torpedo bat. Is the hype still there? Are their numbers to support it? And what's your view on the bat itself?
Yeah, people haven't talked about it much now, Michael. Right, there was a big furor about the first week. Everyone was talking for the Yankees, their torpedo bats, and now if they're using them, I guess everyone's using them. Nobody cares, right? They just become kind of a subtitle. I certainly see them here and there. I don't think they become commonplace. I don't think everyone's all of a sudden adapted torpedo bats, but they kind of became synonymous with the Yankees' early season success. But the torpedo bat existed a year ago. It's been around. It's not like a new innovation, and certainly any player can use it if they'd like to. The real simple explanation is that normally the good wood, so to speak, is in the barrel of the bat, and the torpedo bat is transferred down a little bit. So if you get jammed more on pitches, that ball is going to go further, theoretically. So rather than trying to hit the heart of the bat, you're going down a little bit smaller. So it's a pretty unique contraption. I'm always in favor of anybody who's smart enough to think of ways outside the box and build better bats and better equipment. So I give props to whoever engineered it. And, it's certainly working out for the Yankees team, who's in first place right now. But no, I think it's kind of died down a little bit. There was this talk that they're going to ban the torpedo bat, or is it good for the game? And as you notice, these things kind of come and go. And it's not a fad. I think it's here to stay, but it's not really as much of an issue as some people may have thought it was.
Hey, the good news for the Mariners this year is the American League is just kind of down as a whole. Even when you look at teams that are raking, like the Yankees, you can point out several flaws, whether it's their bullpen, maybe it's, other batters in their lineup not named Aaron Judge, whatever it is. It feels like every team has a fatal flaw. You look at the National League and you go, at least here in Seattle, thank God we're not in the NL West. Wow, that would be the
100%.
worst.
That is such a tough division. The Giants are great, and no one was expecting the Giants to be this good. The Padres are right behind them. Padres had a great series against the Yankees in the Bronx. Every single game there was exciting. And, of course, the Dodgers have the best record in baseball. So L.A. is legit, as we all know, especially their top four hitters are ridiculous. Now Teoscar Hernandez, by the way, is going to be out for about a month, so that could harm them a little bit, but they're just being carried by Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. Again, the Giants have been a really good story. Wilmer Flores has been really good for them. Elliot Ramos as well. They're pitching. Robbie Ray's won his 7 straight starts. They're one of the first-time pitchers to do that in over a decade. So, and the Padres, again, I mentioned them. The concern lasted. Dylan Cease was pitching a no-hitter. We were on no-hitter watch last night, MLB Network, and then Cease had to leave the game. Apparently something happened in his forearm. Hopefully it's nothing serious. But Tatis is in the MVP conversation. Machado's an exquisite player. Bogarts is having a good year. And, of course, they've got other pitchers like Michael King who are really good. So, yeah, the NL West right now, best division in baseball.
Yeah, it's like a zoo. I like being able to watch from afar. You know what I mean? It's like safe here.
Well, 100%. And as far as the AL West is concerned, it's tricky because, you would have thought the Astros would be better, but they did this last year, as you guys know. They started out slow, 500 team, had that great second half. But I kind of feel like the worm is starting to turn. Like Yordan Alvarez has been disappointing so far. He's hurt from Rivaldo's good start last night. Hadn't been great prior to that. McCullers is now back, but they've been hurt by injuries. They're starting pitching. They no longer have Alex Bregman, who's been raking for the Red Sox. So maybe this is a bit of a change now. The Astros will get a down year, and Seattle will be able to capitalize.
What do you think about the A's? They're an interesting team for me. When I watch them play, you see the talent. You look at some of their numbers. They don't impress you really. They're playing in a small ballpark, which I kind of like, Adnan. I like hearing the chirping from the crowd. It's like it gives me college baseball vibes again. But the A's they're a tricky team to understand.
Yeah, it's funny, Michael, because you look at them, and I did an essay the other day on Jacob Wilson, who's one of my favorite players to watch, because his bat-to-ball skills are amazing. In today's game, you focus so much on the three true outcomes, a home run, a walk, or a strikeout. But Wilson's amazing. He doesn't do any of that. He does not strike out. He doesn't walk. He goes up there every single time looking to hit. And you mentioned your kids. With my kids, I try to coach my Little League kids to make sure they hit. Don't if they're looking to work a walk. Don't worry about the strike zone. Go up there and hit and swing the bat. And Wilson does that. He epitomizes that A's team, which is filled with free swingers. And Butler's a great hitter. Rooker, they signed to a long-term contract. Soderstrom at 9 home runs his first 19 games. He came out like a house on fire. And pitching-wise, Severino's their ace. He's a good pitcher, obviously, the years of the Yankees and the Mets. Bito's not bad. They really rely on their bullpen. They've thrown the third most innings of any team on their bullpen, so I worry about that sustainability. But Mason Miller is one of my favorite players. He's their closer, of course, type 2 diabetic, but he throws 103 miles per hour. He's a ton of fun to watch. Again, they're overly reliant on the bullpen, and they're not particularly good at home, by the way. At the SUT, they haven't played well, but they've got one of the best road records in baseball. They're 13-7 on the road. So I think they're a fun bunch to watch, and at least if they hover around 500, that'd be good news there for the A's.
It was a close series for Seattle. Thankfully, that one in the rear view, although obviously more down the road against the A's. The next team, obviously the Toronto Blue Jays coming here to town. You're going to have a tough series and then go on to the Yankees. What can you tell us about Toronto's season?
Well, the Jays right now, their lack of power is just horrendous. I mean, they've been out-homered 51-25. Vladimir Guerrero was given this $500 million contract, and he is on pace for 19 home runs. This is after averaging 34 home runs over his last 4 seasons. So he has not been the same power hitter. Bo Bichette's been even worse. He has 1 home run so far this year, and he's been healthy. He's played. He just hasn't been effective. I mentioned Santander's yet to get going. Springer's been better, but still only 4 home runs. So their offense is really lackluster. They're scoring the third fewest runs in baseball. The good news to them is their top 3 pitchers are excellent. Barrios, Gausman, Bassett. The bad news is the 4 and 5 spot have been a concern. Bowden Francis isn't nearly as good this year as he was a season ago. And they signed Max Scherzer, that 1-year, $15.5 million contract. He makes 1 start, and he's been out with a thumb injury. He's not going to be back until at least Memorial Day, so 2 months gone. Max for $15 million at best. That's definitely not what they were hoping for. So it's good news for the Mariners. The Jays right now are not a good team. They're under 500. They can't score runs.
All right. He is MLB Network's Adnan Virk, kind enough to join us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. Thanks, Adnan.
Thanks, Adnan.
All right, Michael, Stacy, thank you so much, guys. Go M's.
Have a good one.